We go. Camera's on you and me. Hey, everybody. How are you? Jeff Gelman of Solid Canine Training. Check the volume, please. We got volume here.
What do you mean?
Make sure you can actually hear me coming out of your computer. You can't.
I can't.
Nope. Check it now.
Yep.
Aha.
Yep,
There we go.
yep.
Okay, now turn it down. All right, good. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Jeff Gelman of Solid Canine Training with my weekly, well, almost weekly. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been here. I've been doing a lot of traveling. I was out in, where was I? I was in LA. We're doing the best we can. But anyway, if you're brand new to my show, Behaviors, obviously we train dogs what we want them to do, but our specialty is stopping unwanted behaviors. So I think it's really, really important that people understand that. So when you hear us, let's adjust this camera a little bit better here. When you hear us talk, hear me answer questions, there's going to be a lot of punishment-based stuff. And the reason why it is because punishment is how you stop an unwanted behavior. I'm not going to get into the science of dog training because nobody needs to really hear all that, because most people that do it are just sounding smart, but not actually helping people. So I'd rather be able to get you results. So what you can do is you can start asking your question right now in the chat box. That's what you can do. And if you miss any of this show, you can always watch the replay. You know, we'll have the replay out there. So here we go.
Brought my dog to a friend's house to socialize, and mine started growling, lunging, staring. After an intro, both dogs were fine. Anyway, cut out the nonsense when she gets so locked in right away.
Yeah, do that because it's probably a bad greeter. It could have been uncomfortable. It could have been too much pressure on your dog. Keep in mind that a lot of dogs are wary of other dogs. They just are. And it's not just your dog. There's the other dogs that come into play as well. There's also the environment. There's also the humans. Also, if your dog was on leash or off leash, there's a lot of variables. So we're a big advocate of usually sometimes if your dog is not good with other dogs, you can always go on a little bit of a quick walk, see how that goes. But at the beginning of any type of greeting behavior, what you need to do is you need to stop all that arousal. So you could have corrected your dog. You can do that. A lot of people are like, never punish growling. Well, all depends on what the other dog was doing. If the other dog was playing rough with your dog and your dog doesn't like rough play, that's something to be taken into consideration. A lot of dogs don't like rough play. Personally, unless my dogs know the other dog, I don't let my dogs play with strange dogs, even friends' dogs, but they're strange dogs. So I've got some friend of mine coming over tomorrow. She's bringing a couple of her dogs. She'll probably stay the night. My guys are probably not going to socialize with their dogs just because, number one, they don't need to. They don't need to. And to me, I don't need them to. They don't need to do it. And it's just safer that way. It's just safer that way. Next question.
Hi, Jeff. I have a little 10-pound mixed breed. I don't own a prong collar. I have tried your technique for walking on a leash, but using a harness. It appears to be working. Any thoughts?
Well, my technique is not using a harness. So, and it's not just my technique. So unfortunately, if it's working for you, keep doing it. Number one, like if it's working, keep doing it. That's all that really, truly matters. But a harness is not a training device. Harnesses are designed for dogs to pull. So that's why they use them in weight pulling. That's why we use them in protection work. That's why we use them in tracking. It's designed to pull. But if your dog is reactive, it won't work. If your dog starts pulling, you're pulling back. All you're doing is using physical strength and it's easy because it's a 10-pound dog. The dog really isn't learning as much. So, again, whatever works, do it. We don't train on harnesses. None of my colleagues really train on harnesses for walking. It doesn't give information to the dog in a way that we want it to be. So I would say that's not my technique because it's not. My technique doesn't involve harnesses. I'm not mad or upset at you, but I'm just saying, but if I'm glad that it's working, if you're making progress, if you're picking up some tips and some hints and some little tidbits of information from my videos, that's all that really matters to me. That's fine. And then there's also massive amounts of stuff you can be doing in the house. I talk about energy. I talk about intent. I talk about, structure. I talk about consequences. So all that matters to me is that things are better for you now. Next.
My fixed female blue heeler mix is always trying to mount other dogs at friends' houses or at the dog park. She is our only dog, so we don't have a lot of opportunity to correct the behavior. Thoughts?
Well, number one, I hate dog parks. Dog parks are horrific. Most dog parks, and I'm not talking about one that's like 20 acres or 10 acres. Most dog parks, at least around us, are, usually 1,000 square feet tops. So to me, I don't like dog parks. You don't know anything about the other dogs, health-wise or behavioral-wise. Dog parks, usually dogs that come to us that are leash reactive, that are dog reactive, they were fine up until they either got attacked by an off-leash dog or there was an incident at a dog park. So I'm not a big fan of that. As far as being fixed or not fixed, that's got nothing to do with humping. Humping is just a bad behavior. How do you stop that? If you watch us you can stop it with a remote collar. You can stop it with a dressage whip. To me, though, your dog's going to end up getting into a dog fight because a lot of dogs don't like that. So your dog's going to mount a dog that doesn't like it. It's going to turn around. It's going to probably turn into a dog park. So you want to stop that. Dog fight. So I'd stop that right away. If your dog's on a remote collar, you can do that as well. I wouldn't introduce the remote collar, though, at a dog park for that situation. I would train your dog what it actually means. Next.
I meant walking positively, chest up, good energy.
Awesome. Like I said, 1952 tools. I'm proud of you. That's awesome. That's great. Keep it up.
Hey, Jeff and Linda. Raquel here.
Hey, Raquel. Love you.
How are you? Okay. Yay, got my e-collar and have started layering with food for place and heel. With my WLGSD, dog aggressive, out on a walk, do I tap, then dial up at the first sign of amping up until she focuses on me?
So for if you've got a dog aggressive dog that's dog reactive, there's a lot of different protocols you got to do. Number one, on the walk, you want to make sure that you get your dog, don't let your dog get aroused. Don't get your dog get aroused. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that with a remote collar. What you can do, though, is at the first sign of arousal, I think did I just do something on that? Oh, I just answered someone's question on that. The first sign of arousal, what you can do is you can correct that, punish the arousal. You want to punish the arousal. So you can do that with the nick button or the momentary button on the remote collar. A lot of people, and I'm so blown away. I'm just so blown away that people still think you shouldn't punish arousal or you shouldn't punish a dog that explodes on a walk. Like, you only have two options. You can reward it or you can punish it. That's the only two options you have when it comes to dogs. There's nothing in between. The lack of a punishment is a reward. That's just the way it is. But all these dogs that are leash reactive, I'm still amazed that people are like, they'll yell at you, they'll scream at you, like online, which I don't pay attention to. I delete all that stuff, but never punish a leash reactive dog. It's like, okay, well then all you can do is reward it. That's all you can do. Redirecting doesn't work. It doesn't work. Next.
I want to thank you for your videos on the prong collar. It completely solved my problem with my puppy pulling me when she walked. It worked like magic the first time I put it on her. She has started to seem shy around strangers lately, but wasn't like that before. Is there a reason why?
Yeah, there's a reason why. First of all, it's just to let you know, it's not the prong collar. It's absolutely not the prong collar. The reason why your dog is acting shy is because maybe if you say puppy, everyone defines a different term for puppy. It could be because your dog is going through a fear stage. It could be because of that. So what I would do is I wouldn't allow strangers to come up to your dog. What I would do is have your dog, this concept that allowing humans to walk up to your dog with smiley faces and their hands out and possibly even food, and then thinking that your dog will like all these humans just isn't the case. It's just not going to happen. Could it happen? Sure. But we see the opposite. We see it makes a lot of dogs nervous. The best thing to do is get your dog to exist around people. Also, a lot of humans reinforce fear in dogs, but not on purpose. Nobody says, I want my dog to learn how to be afraid. Like, people just don't do that. But unfortunately, if you're soothing your dog or giving warm, fuzzy voices to your dog when it's in the fear stage, you're actually reinforcing it. So what do? Get your dog to exist around humans, walk through it, get your dog to just move through things. All right, next.
Walking my dog and he stopped suddenly, wouldn't walk over a manhole cover. How do I get him to go over them without being afraid?
So, John, what we do is this. You can do a couple of different things. You actually can, we've done this so many different times. You actually just have the dog walk over it. You have the dog walk over it. So you go one way, the other way, one way, the other way, one way, the other way. You can do that. You're going to use a little bit of force. I mean, if you wanted to take a bunch of food, throw it on the manhole cover and have the dog eat off of it, you could try that. The problem is if the dog's truly afraid, it's not going to do it. So if the dog would eat food off the manhole cover, that means it's not really afraid. Therefore, you can go, let's go. I do that all the time with sewer grates, and I do that all the time with manhole covers. We have dogs that avoid the place bed. Once a dog goes over it 1 or 2 times, full disclaimer, if it's 100 degrees out, don't have your dog do it because it's going to be hot. It'll burn its feet. You probably shouldn't be walking your dog in that weather anyway. So, but that's how you're going to do it. Back and forth, back and forth. Next.
Best way to stimulate dog during the summer days. It's about 104 here in Arizona until about 8 at night.
Yeah, Jake. So find yourself a swimming hole. What I would do is also teach your dog trick training, take it out for early morning walks, get a treadmill inside. Next.
11-week-old female puppy engaging in very vocal play with her 2 pack members. At any time, should I intervene or let the adult dogs correct on their own? Will they overcorrect?
Historically,
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Very vocal. I mean, growling and barking the entire time.
Yeah, that's just play, by the way. That's just play. That's what dogs do. That's what dogs do, and that's what kids do too. They run around and they play like, all these physical games and hide and seek, and they play fake war, and they like make all kinds of noise, and they make spaceship sounds, and they have all kinds of little characters. They're being creative. So dogs do the exact same thing. Now, if the older dogs decide to correct, can they overcorrect? Sure. They could kill the dog. They can hurt the dog. Historically, though, balanced dogs are really good at correcting puppies. But all depends on the dog. I don't have enough information, but you can stop it. I would stop it when you want to stop it. So if you're like, hold on here, it's gone on long enough. So you need to teach the dogs, if you don't allow the dogs to be aroused, you need to also teach the dogs how to be unaroused. Next.
Thank you so much.
Say people's names.
Okay, Chevy. Thank you so much, Jeff and Linda. Your videos have saved my dog and my sanity.
Awesome, Chevy. Thank you so much.
This one's from Laura. We started using a bonker as instructed in your videos. Our dog now cowers and acts afraid around my husband, even if he isn't holding the bonker or paying any attention to her at all. Do you know why?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different variables. I mean, it could have been used wrong. Any dog training can be used wrong. The way to properly use a bonker is you say the word no, calmly, no yelling, no screaming. You're not mad. You're not angry. You say the word no, and then you whiz the bonker. Actually, hold on one second. Keep talking.
I thought you had one.
Tell a joke.
Oh, here's my only joke. Why did the leprechaun eat 239 beans?
Because one more would make him too farty.
Because one more would be too farty.
Okay, this is a bonker. So we've used a bonker thousands of times on dogs. We're not seeing dogs cower and be afraid of it. So, this isn't a blaming, shaming thing. So what I would do is I would get your husband to engage the dog in more food-based activities. That could be it. Next.
This one's from Heather Ratcliffe.
Hey, Heather.
Super positive feedback today from an owner. I helped learn to walk pup with prong. So great making a difference in people's lives. Thank you.
It is, Heather. It really is. Awesome. Proud of you. Heather's going to be at T3. Nice. I'm going to be in New York this week. Go to rvdogtrainer.com, rvdogtrainer.com. Melissa, if you want to throw the link up there, that'd be great. Thanks.
Great Skype the other day. Thanks. Severe anxiety and crate. Okay to baby by moving the crate upstairs for now. Slowly move downstairs. Doing punishers, but running up and down the steps ain't cutting it.
Yep, Jamal, go ahead. Jamal is one of my Patreon folks. If somebody wants to put up the Patreon, patreon.com/solidcanine training, you can get a 15 or a 30-minute Skype depending on your patronage. Thanks.
This one's from Connie. My 1.5-year-old shakes and wants to run away from strange random things like kites or noises like drums or music in the airport. Just never know what will trigger.
Yep. So Connie, what I would do is I would teach that dog place, duration work, place. So go to a dog bed and don't get off, and then start introducing environment.
Which one's?
It's going to be. It's going to be that one right there. Yep. Hey, everybody, we're back. Nope.
No.
Yep. We have really bad internet. Really bad. Yeah, we have really, really bad internet. I'm back right there. Yep. So sorry about that, guys. So, yep. I have no idea what's going on. We've been losing internet all day long. We've got to call up our internet provider tomorrow. So I'm not quite sure why it's doing this, but we've been having problems for a while. So yep, I'm back on. Keep your questions going. So whoever asked questions that were below us, we don't have them. So you're gonna have to ask your questions all over again. And I have no idea what's going on, but literally I looked over to my router and it was off. It was off. So I've got no idea why this is happening at all. If you're just tuning in though, again, my name is Jeff Gellman of Solid Canine Training. This is my weekly dog training show. What would Jeff do? This is my 431st one. So we've been doing this for a really long time. I try to do this every week. My travel schedule hasn't been allowing me to. So here we go.
Okay, Anderson.
Yep.
Hi, Jeff and Linda. My dog starts to tremble and also gets angry with other dogs when we go out, even with the prong collar. Should I bonk the dog or is it too late to apply a correction?
Okay, so for a couple of things, your dog's not angry. So dogs don't get angry. Spouses get angry. Also, the prong collar has got nothing to do with it. So prong collars are not miracle workers. No tool is a miracle worker. No food, no training tool is a miracle worker. So your problems are not being solved with like these tools. It's going to be all training, and it's a whole circumference of training, 360-degree lifestyle of training. The thing is, so your dog is aroused. So it's aroused. So what I want you to do is, yes, you want to correct the arousal. A remote collar is going to always be a little bit better, but that's a multi-leveled training protocol. It's not just, one thing and go bam. That's not that. What you need to do is you need to practice on areas where there's no dogs, perfect the heel. And then what you can do is, yes, when your dog starts getting aroused, you would correct it, preferably with a remote collar because it really, really works by that. Next.
This one's from Lori. Asked about counter conditioning. Can you explain it, what it means, and examples? Thanks.
Counter conditioning, that's a really, really long answer, Lori. So counter conditioning is getting a dog to reassociate things differently. So if a dog has got negative associations with, say, thunder, you want to reassociate that. If it has negative associations with a certain area of the house, what you're doing is you're getting the dog to reassociate that. Historically, it's done with clickers and food. Next.
This one's from Frank. Are e-collars safe for huskies and safe way to train dogs?
Gotcha. E-collars are safe for every dog. Every dog. So if you have a husky, first of all, e-collars are great because make sure you just get the thick fur prong contact points on those. But yeah, you can have a great reliable off-leash recall on a husky. But huskies just another breed of dog. So remote collars are great for Chihuahuas. Like there's not a dog out there that a remote collar is not great for. Next.
This one's from Kayla. Hey, Jeff Gellman, just curious, have you ever worked with a service dog, perhaps assisting an owner train on obedience?
Well, we've done some service dog stuff, but we've done public access stuff. We've done some public access training, some obedience training, but most dogs that we find out there from people that call their dogs service dogs aren't service dogs. Oh my gosh. Hold on. I think I'm definitely getting sick. They're not service dogs. So, but yes, we can help a dog with, but if a dog needs help with obedience, it's not a service dog. Like a service dog already should have its obedience taken care of, its public access taken care of. It can be a service dog in training, but most people, though, are trying to use dogs as a service dog, which are not capable of being a service dog. But yes, we can help with training, fine-tuning a lot of things. Next.
Heather says, are you on Verizon? I've had weird Wi-Fi trouble the last week.
We are. Yep.
Yeah, it's been days.
It's been days, yeah.
Lori says, love Patreon.
Awesome.
This one is from Savage. I decided to buy a prong collar after watching one of your videos. The first 5 minutes of using it, my dog felt like a different dog. No more pulling and jumping at other dogs. Thanks.
Awesome, Savage. I mean, that's the thing about prong collars is prong collars, you still got to do the training, Savage. So still make sure we got to work on your leash handling skills. But you pretty much summed it up in a nutshell. If you've got yourself a pulling dog, the first thing you should do is go out and get a prong collar, put it on the dog, watch a video that takes 5 minutes and start working the dog. You're not going to most likely use it wrong. If it's fitted right, if it's in the right spot, you're not going to hurt the dog. everything you hear about online negative about prong collars, about how they hurt dogs, is false. I've trained over 4,000 dogs. My staff have trained thousands of dogs. My colleagues have trained 10,000 dogs. Our videos are seen by millions of people. And folks just like you, Savage, are just saying they were great. They were great. If anybody has a bad experience on one, then you might have just used it wrong. You might have just used it wrong. But 99.9% of the time, it's the best tool there is. And there's no reason why a dog should be pulling you down the street. The mistake that some people make is they just put it on the dog and they let their dog way out in front of them, and they don't change anything. They don't change their leash handling skills, their energy, the way they communicate with their dog. So you still got to do the training, but it's a wonderful communication device. Next.
This one's from Be Healed Dog Training. Just got a treadmill for my training dogs. Have taught everyone who's here to walk on it. Love it. What's
Awesome.
a safe way to tie them when they are walking on it while I work another dog?
A safe way to tie them is you can actually, some people tie with 2 leashes, one leash coming from each side of the uprights that keeps the dog centered. If you got a dog that's pretty good though, don't walk away from the dog. Well, obviously never leave the room, first of all, but make sure you're next to the dog at first, just to see and make sure the dog has enough slack that if it has to jump off, it jumps off. But sometimes you can just take a leash and you can just tie it to the front piece that you would put your hands on for, like, the heart monitor. But a lot of times you can do it to the side pieces that hold the top keypad up. Next.
After being live or replay?
This is the live.
Hungry Animal Foundation. Hey, Jeff and Linda, how are you? Love your shows.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, this one's from 1952 Toots. Forgot to mention, dog was barking at everyone walking by house. The
Awesome.
no and bonker stop the behavior. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah. For barking dogs in windows, for dogs rushing the door, a bonker is great. All a bonker is the towel wrapped up. You just say no, you whiz it at the dog. A lot of people struggle with it. Just keep in mind, I'm very, very aware of the conversation that's out there with people that are saying, oh my God, so you're hitting your dog. I'm very aware. The issue is this, is that millions of dogs a year are being killed in our shelters. Tens of millions, if not obviously more, owners are struggling with even basic living with their dog. Owners' lives are really limited by badly behaved dogs. Most dog training out there is trying to convince you that everything should be warm and love and fuzzy and kind. And wouldn't it be great if that was the answer? There has to be boundaries. There has to be a punisher. And I find that by utilizing tools in a proper way, you're actually using less force on your dog than the lack of tools. Next.
Lori. She says e-collar is making a smaller e-collar for small dogs.
When Greg puts that out, I'll believe it.
It'll be on my chihuahuas.
Right. Because I'm waiting for it. I'm a huge supporter of Greg. I've been promoting Greg since he founded the company. But let's get going on that small e-collar. Next.
Megan. Pup growled at vet staff each time they entered the exam room, corrected with e-collar, but was getting flustered. She wouldn't stop. Continued to correct and have her yelp, scream, and growl.
No, Megan. Give the dog to the vet and leave the room and let them deal with what they have to do. Okay? That's what you need to do. In the meantime, start doing vet training. So what I want you to do, did you get a new dog, first of all, Megan? Hopefully I'll see you in Baltimore too. So what I want you to do is practice vet training. Get the dog up onto a table, check all of its body parts, do that. You can absolutely use food to work on those protocols. So you want to be able to do that. So you need to get your dog more accustomed to going to the vet's office. But a lot of things are scary at a vet's office for dog. What I don't want you to do is correct your dog at the vet. I actually don't want you to do that. But a lot of times owners are better off just handing the dog off, muzzle the dog up, and then let the vets do their job and the vet techs do their job.
Next.
Yep.
This one's from Karen. I commented earlier on your Facebook about teaching my dog to swim as we love going to the beach. Since I live on a military base, finding a pool for my dog to swim was hard. Would I be able to teach her to get comfortable learning to swim in the beach if there are no rough waves?
Yeah. I've got a video on teaching a dog to swim in a non-pool. It's so you make a big U-turn. You just make a big U-turn. You go out. Remember, our waist is usually the dog's where the dog can start swimming. So you'll just make a big U-turn. So you can do that. Everything. The magic to teaching a dog to swim is a leash and movement. Next.
When dog is excited to see someone, she finds a toy or something like a shoe to hold in her mouth when she greets them. Is that okay for a normally anxious dog? Part of me is just glad she's not barking.
Yeah. So Michael, I would not do a shoe, but I would do a toy. That's your dog gifting. It's called gifting. It's very common. I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. And you're right. Dog's got something in its mouth that ain't going to be biting or barking. So that's actually a good thing. It's actually a good thing that your dog is so comfortable that it wants to gift. It also does it out of excitement and arousal. But that is absolutely something I have no problem with whatsoever. Next.
Megan says they could examine without muzzle. She was nervous, but the growling was just when someone new would walk in the room.
Yeah, it's just nervous growling. I would still leave it alone at the vet office. Next.
Hungry Animal Foundation. Any tips on starting your own business?
I've got a million tips. So, I mean, Skype, this Periscope is not one to give you advice like that because it's multi-layered. That's a business consult. So I don't do this to drum up business, but join my Patreon page, patreon.com/solidcanine training, and we can do Skypes. But that's what I do is business consulting. So I got tons of, that's a general question. It's a general question. Next.
That's what Jamal suggested. Thanks, Jamal.
Yep.
Megan says, no, she's 1.5 years old, the better of the two.
Got it. Next.
Savage. Jeff, what is your favorite beer? I feel like I owe you a few after watching all your videos.
Savage, I'm actually sober. I've been sober for over 27 years. So I just lead a sober lifestyle. No drugs, no alcohol.
I'll take the beer.
But what you can do is join my Patreon page, and you can do it as little as $5 a month. So, a lot of people are joining it just for $5 a month, just literally like yourself, who just wants to say thank you to me. Next.
Megan says, okay, we did let them take her, and they said she was fine, just nervous. Phew.
Yeah.
We did something right. And yes, see you in October.
All right. Awesome, Megan. Love you.
Carol. Looking forward to attending the seminar in Collingwood, Ontario, Canada. Meantime, love all training you offer free on social media. Thank you.
Awesome, Carol. Carol's going to be a fantastic time. It's coming up in 12 days. Next.
Karen says, great, thanks. Got myself a 30-foot leash.
Awesome. The good for off-leash stuff.
Michael Schultz says, awesome, thanks.
All right, Michael.
Rini, I think is what it says. Hello, I'm from Kosovo, and I have a 1-year-old Belgian Malinois. He is terrible at walking, but here in Kosovo, we can't get Hermspringer prong collar. Can I use any other prong collar?
Yeah, so Rini, try to get one. If you can't get a Hermspringer prong collar, I would get yourself a 3mm prong collar from whatever manufacturer you can get. So absolutely get one of those. So maybe you can get a knockoff one, or you can get one of the cheaper Chinese brands. But, I would also go onto some websites to see if you can get some, see if you can have one shipped in from Germany. But if you can't, a prong collar is a prong collar. I would actually see if you can get anybody from a canine officer or the military, but a canine officer, maybe from your local working dog program, see if they've got access to one as well. But yes, next.
Hungry Animal Foundation says, thanks, everyone. Appreciate the input.
Awesome.
This next one is from Clayton. What's the best way to stop play biting? Try to bonker, and the dog just acts like it's a toy.
So if your dog is acting like the bonker is a toy, you most likely didn't use it right. You probably didn't use it firm enough. This is a bonker. It's a towel. It's a wrapped up towel. So chances are you threw it at the dog or tossed it at the dog instead of really corrected the dog. So your dog shouldn't enjoy the bonker. Your dog shouldn't enjoy the bonker. So what you want to do is you want to see the word no, and you want to throw it very, very firmly. But what you can also do is use a pet convincer. Sorry for my reach. You can use a pet convincer. This is a pet convincer. It's just compressed air. So you can use that. You can actually also take your thumb and you can stick it in the dog's mouth. What you can do is that as well. So you can, anything to make the dog uncomfortable. Some people will do ear pinches. Some people will do like little side pinches on the dog. That's what they've done for decades, is the little pinch, and that works as well. Next.
Frank says, do you recommend neutering a dog? Does it affect behavior of the dog?
So I'm a huge advocate of spay and neuter, but I'm a bigger advocate of personal choice. I think that every dog that leaves a shelter should be spayed or neutered. I think that most people don't need a dog that is intact, but I have no problem with people leaving their dogs intact as long as they don't allow their dogs to free roam and to escape and to get off property. And most likely they shouldn't breed. So most dogs are not breeding stock that we have right now out there. I think breeding should be left to professional breeders that understand genetics in dogs, bone structure in dogs, temperament in dogs. But as far as behavior, the only behavior that historically that I have seen neutering and spaying your dog is the lack of being able to procreate. That's usually the only behavior that I see. And even then, I don't even know if it's 100%, just like us. I don't even know if it's 100% with us humans. Every dog that comes into my training center, and imagine every behavioral problem there is, everything from the most shy, nervous, fearful dog to dog killers and dogs that put humans in hospitals. So imagine the spectrum of dogs that we get. Every one has been desexed. So that didn't stop any of the stuff at all. So to me, one of my females, Kira, is intact. My next male dog will be intact as well. I'm not planning on breeding Kira. I'm not planning on breeding the male. But to me, having unnecessary surgery, for me personally, as an owner with my lifestyle, I'm going to choose to not do it. Next.
Michael, selective recall. How fast should dog return when called here? Sometimes she lollygags on her way back. E-collar stim will get her back quicker, but it isn't fixing the behavior. Am I nagging? How high?
So Michael, the cool thing is that you answered your own question. So so you answered your own question. So obviously when you use the e-collar, it motivates your dog to come back a little bit quicker, which is really, really cool. So what I would do is you're probably nagging the dog. Let's have a better conversation, but keep a long line on your dog, please. Don't be correcting for recall. Don't correct for lack of recall on a remote collar without a long line on your dog in an enclosed area, because you want to see what your dog does. Some dogs will go, holy shit, that sucks, and they'll run away. Other dogs go, holy shit, I better get my butt back to my owner, and they'll come running back to you. That's what you're looking for. So you most likely are nagging the dog. Next.
Hungry Animal Foundation. Mine is terrified of a bonker. Learn that from you guys.
Okay. Cool. That's a good thing. Next.
Keemed.
Yep.
Should I connect my two dogs together when on walks? One walks really fast while the other we have to tug to keep him walking. 2 one-year-old pits.
The only downfall is by connecting dogs together is if they were ever to get into a tussle or a fight, you're screwed. And if an off-leash dog charges you and they'll create a fight, which happens a lot, you're screwed. I'd prefer if they were on separate leashes, and then you can be the one that speeds the other dog up. Next.
Melissa says, I have a 12-pound 10-year-old. He is a nervous, anxious dog and has been. We've been working hard with the healing. He's doing well and has helped with reactivity. Best confidence building activities?
Melissa, so what I would do is all different food training protocols. So I would have your dog go just basic training. So just basic training. So use the dog's daily food. So tap into the dog's food drive to get the dog to be more motivated to work, and get the dog also, you can also start doing things like climbing up things, going underneath things, going through things, do trick training. You can do that. So you can work on all those things. And those are good confidence building things. Next.
This is from Jake. Do dogs get possessive over fetch ball when playing with others? Best way to fix?
Yeah, they do, Jake. I mean, dogs guard anything. Dogs guard a leaf. So anything the dog deems valuable, they guard. Now, there's all different levels of that, though. So if I was playing fetch with my 2 dogs and one of them started like guarding a ball, I would probably tell my dog no, not to guard it, but I also don't want them to drop it and let the other dog grab it. So that's the catch-22 is then you're having a dog become a ball stealer. The other dog becomes a ball stealer. So what I want my dog to do is if it gets to the ball first, it picks it up. It doesn't need to guard it, and the other dogs don't need to try to get it. Next.
Michael says she does the holy shit, I need to get back to the owner, but then she does it again next time.
So I would just do more repetitions, Michael. Just do more repetitions, right? I'm glad your dog is understanding the technology, that's for sure. Next.
This one's from Kayla. I know this is a peculiar question, but you seem to know everything. Haha.
No, I don't. Just for full clarification, I know probably 1% about dog training. 1%. There's tons of stuff that I do not know about at all. There's so much stuff out there. Knowledge in dog training is endless. It's endless,
she just
endless,
says
endless.
everything. She doesn't even say dog training.
Oh,
so
no.
You must know everything.
No, not even close. And
I'll tell him he doesn't.
Yeah, and according to my wife, I don't know shit. But according to my kids, I don't know any shit.
Oh, no. Don't say that. Any tips on training a dog to know the difference between walking on leash and pulling leash for pulling sports like, what's this? Bike your?
Yeah. There's a huge difference. So you can do a lot of that stuff is like done on a harness. So anytime you want your dog, to pull, we always recommend harnesses. So for all kinds of biking or skiing or weight pulling or things like that, you're going to put your dog on a harness. You can also have your dog, because that's going to be the safest thing. You actually don't want your dog pulling on a collar, not just a prong collar, but any collar. I wouldn't want my dog to pull on a prong collar, a martingale, a flat buckle, a choke chain, a slip lead. I wouldn't my dog want to pull on any of those things. So I'd want my dog to pull on a harness, which they utilize in the front of their body, which is the strongest part of their body. So you absolutely can have a dog that understands harness goes on, boom, it's pulling time. Collar goes on, boom. Plus you tell them heel. So you would train your dog heel. I don't do sports with my dog, so I don't know how to teach the bike part. But that's where you'd find you can either watch videos on how to do that. So there you go. I don't know everything. Next.
This one's from John. Is there a difference between leave it and no?
I don't use the word, well, no, yes, there's a huge difference. You should be saving no, just like you should be saving yes. You should be saving no for the ultimate in what you just did. I don't want you to do it again. I don't use leave it. I'm not opposed to leave it, but I just don't use leave it. I think people have watered down the leave it command. I think what people have done is they use it all the time when they really mean to say no. So, but if you want to use the word leave it, the problem with that is a lot of people will do this. The dog picks up a candy wrapper. You say leave it, and the dog drops it. You really don't want the dog to leave it. You want them to never pick up candy wrappers again. Or the dog goes up to like some horse poop. You'll say, leave it. The dog moves away. It works. People have done a great job teaching leave it.
But Jeff, would you say out or would you say no?
I would say no for candy wrappers.
And poop?
And poop, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Next.
Okay. Melissa, thank you. I will see you in Maryland in October.
Awesome, Melissa. Can't wait to see you.
Hungry Animal, you know more knowledge than most people in their little pinky. LOL.
I just got a big mouth, Hungry Animal. Thank you so much.
And then y'all be seminaring in Tennessee?
No, but I go down to Knoxville every once in a while to visit my daughter, who's a knife maker down there. The closest thing I've got to Tennessee is actually I'll be in Greenville, South Carolina. Go to rvdogtrainer.com, rvdogtrainer.com. It's only 2 hours away, at least from Knoxville. So it's pretty close. It's a great city, too. Greenville's a great city. Next.
Keemed, thank you. When I try to ride my skateboard near my dog, he goes crazy and starts to attack the skateboard. Should I correct him high on the e-collar or get him accustomed to the skateboard first? You can actually do both. You actually can do both things. You can get your dog to get used to the skateboard. And that's the best way to do that is by having your dog in place, which is go to a dog mat and don't get off. I've got tons of videos on it. My dogs are in place right now. And then you start exposing it to environmentals, whether that's basketball, skateboards, bicycles, things like that. But if the dog's attacking the skateboard, you absolutely can punish the act of biting the skateboard. And you can do that with a bonker. You can do that with a remote collar. Next. Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Anything
All right.
now.
So a couple of little plugs. You can go to rvdogtrainer.com, rvdogtrainer.com, and you can see the seminar schedule that we have. I'm going to be in Long Island, but close to New York City this weekend. And then I'm going to be in Collingwood, Canada next weekend. I'm going to be out in Seattle coming up, I think, at the end of the summer. I think I'm taking it a little bit easy in July and August, released in July. So that's the great seminar series. Also, you can go to our website, solidk9training.com, and that's a sort of a portal to everything that I do. And keep in mind that I've got awesome staff at the training center that are doing all the training of the dogs that you see on our Facebook page, where I'm just pretty much running my business, doing Skypes, and making videos, and then touring the world doing training seminars. Next.
Heather says, leave it is like saying okay to your kid after asking them to do something isn't clearly assertive as used today.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not anymore.
This one's from Susan. My 2 Malinois dogs will eat a blade or 2 of grass when outside. Should I correct with e-collar, or is it not a big deal since they only eat a few blades?
Susan, do you really give a shit? Seriously. I love you, Susan. I could care less if my dogs eat 1, 2, or 20 blades of grass. Let them eat the grass. Let them eat the grass. Unless they throw up, and make sure they throw up outside. And people are always like, why do dogs eat grass? Are they like missing a nutrient? Dogs eat grass because it's there. That's all. I wouldn't. But if you want to be that intense with those dogs, which you own Malinois, so they are intense dogs, but I could care less. I don't care. That's up to you. But if you want to stop it, then you correct. Anytime you want to stop an unwanted behavior, there has to be punishment applied. Anytime you want to see more of a behavior or create a new behavior, there has to be a reward. So that's as much science as I'm going to talk about, because people need to really, really understand the concept of dog training. And for some reason, people keep shying away from this concept of punishment. And people hate the word punishment. But punishment is the actual term. It's the actual scientific term. It's called reward and punishment. And punishment is how you stop things. Next.
Steve, what do you say about people who don't believe in the bonker idea?
Steve, I say don't do it. Steve, I say don't do it. This is the thing. Nobody has to do anything I say at all. But a bonker is an incredible tool to stop an unwanted behavior. We've had more success with bonkers as a very important tool in our toolbox for rehabbing aggressive dogs, for resource guarding dogs, for dogs that are overly aroused. So you can't, if you choose not to use it, that's fine. Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you think it doesn't work, there's a lot of information out there, like we do it every day, that says it does work. It says it does work. So next.
Keemed. Thank you. My first time chatting with you. I was hoping to run into you when you were here in Los Angeles. Great job on what you're doing for everyone.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, my LA trip, which was last week, I just went out there for my buddy Sean O'Shea from The Good Dog. He did a keynote speech at a high school, and I had literally no extra time. It was literally a 2-day trip. It was like fly out, fly back. Next.
My dog loves to graze. LOL. I let her do it when the new spring grass comes in.
There you go. Yep. Next.
Michael says, wanted to try Bark Collar, Garmin, but I'm nervous about false corrections. I've read reviews that say it can happen.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. We're not seeing on the Garmin Bark Limiter. I'm not seeing a lot of, or hearing for my dogs, because I've used them on a couple of my dogs. I'm not seeing them. I think sometimes I've heard if it rubs up against metal, it can go off because it's based on vibration. Then there's Garmin makes those, the Garmin one, e-collar technology makes one, and then Dogtra makes one.
How would it go up to metal? Like,
it could like rub against like a metal crate or metal cage or metal kennel
or a fence.
Yep. But I'm not seeing a lot. I've had them on a dog for all day long, and we're not seeing the dog get corrected. Next.
John says, what's your opinion on playing tug with a dog?
Oh, it's great. Tug is a fantastic thing to do. So tug is controlled biting. It's engagement. Tug is engagement. It's controlled biting. It's a great activity for bonding with your dog. And but you remember, you got to teach your dog to let go of it too. So if you're going to teach your dog to bite, you got to teach your dog to out. That's really, really important. But tug is a fantastic, and we use a tug toy, and it's specifically used for one thing, tug. So I don't let my dogs tug on other things. I let them tug literally on a tug toy. I start it, I finish it. I can care less who wins. They can win. But we also practice the word out too. That's really important, which means release the tug. Next.
Jake. From Jake, dog waits around stairs of swimming pool, almost seeming to try to pull the others out. Have you seen this before?
Yeah, Jake, for some reason, dogs want to play lifeguard a lot. They want to play the lifeguard a lot. It's like, that's fine. What I don't like is dogs running around the pool barking. That's what I don't like. That's annoying. Next.
Michael, thank you so much for all the great answers and homework. What you do is amazing for the do-it-yourselfers like me. You guys rock.
Oh, Michael, yeah, that's the thing is like, I firmly believe that everybody should give out all their information for free. I really feel that we're all obligated to leave this world a better place than when we came into it. And I really feel that, there's no secrets in dog training. Now, when you're working with aggression rehab, it's hard for people to do it on their own. Serious anxiety, nervous and fearful dog, it's hard for people to do it on your own. But a lot of the stuff that people are doing, we've got people that English is not their native language. They'll take my videos and they'll decipher them. They'll have to watch them back and forth because I talk really, really fast sometimes, all the time. And they'll fully train their dogs with our free content. So to me, I'm just trying to help as many people as possible. Next.
From Rennie, do you prefer prong collar or e-collar?
Both. I love both tools. They sort of have different purposes. A prong collar is good for when a dog's on a leash and it gives the dog directional control. Remote collar is good for up to a mile away on some of these models. So, bottom line is once the dog is trained to be off leash, the remote collar is going to be your best friend. Next.
This one's from Kim C. Hi, Jeff and Linda. You've helped me in the past and I've been able to correct a lot of bad behaviors. Thanks. My only issue with my dog is that she is still fearful. Could she always be fearful?
Kim, that's hard. I couldn't predict that. I think that, like I just mentioned before, I think it's hard for a lot of owners to work with fear and anxiety. I think a lot of owners, not on purpose, but by default, are reinforcing it. Nobody's doing it on purpose. I think working with a fearful, anxious dog, you actually have to take your heart out of the equation. It sounds so cold and uncaring just when I make statements like that. But the best thing to do is to actually work the dog, hold the dog accountable, work the dog through its fear. So if you want to look at cognitive behavioral therapy, CB, like behavioral, T, therapy, CBT for dummies, look into CBT for dummies or CBT in general for cognitive behavioral therapy in humans, and see how you can switch that over into dogs. Next.
This one's from Steve. We have a year-old GSD and our e-collar doesn't seem to get a good connection at times, even with the long prongs. Thoughts?
So Steve, it's probably contact, unless it's, depends on the brand. So if you're using Garmin, Dogtra or e-collar technology, I don't like Sport Dog because they run hot, but even if it was a Sport Dog, because that's good for corrections, and you want to use the thick fur contact points, you want to make sure it's super snug. I find that most people, they don't keep it snug enough on the dog, so you want to make sure it's really, really snug on the dog. You might even have to shave a little bit of area down, but you usually don't with your.
It's e-collar technology.
E-collar technology. It's probably the fit of the dog. It's probably the fit. Next. Or it could be a defective unit. There's a tester that comes in the box that it's a light. You can see if your unit's defective or not by playing around with it off the dog.
Kayla says, I know you support bark collar for separation anxiety when not home in a pinch, but how about using bark collar to solve reactivity, like walking near dog park, collar corrects barking and growling?
Yeah, Kayla, I'd rather do the correcting though. I'd rather do it. You can, absolutely. Absolutely. Whatever works for you, but I'd rather use a remote collar for that. But if a bark collar works for you, keep doing it. Next.
This one's from Melissa. Kim, it's difficult, but it truly works. I've let go some of my emotions with my nervous small dog. He reacts much different with me than he does with my mother, who is very emotional.
Yeah, Melissa, that's the thing. It's like none of us get dogs to like be cold and uncaring. None of us get dogs to be distant from our dogs. None of us get dogs to be not bonding with them. That's, none of us signed up for that. But having a nervous, fearful dog, that sort of sucks, right? So to me, let's spend 6 months, maybe a year. It doesn't take that long to train your average dog for things, but let's go hardcore for, say, 6 months, really putting these plans in place and putting these protocols in place. And then think about how many years we're going to have after that of having some pretty cool stuff. Next.
Karen, my dog loves to practically tackle me when I come home, despite me not making a big deal about my arrival. What are some other things I can do?
Well, that's Karen. You need to punish that. So your dog can hurt you. So a colleague of mine, like we hear about this every day, but a colleague of mine called me up today that the dog, and we hear about, like, we have dogs that do this too. It pulled its owner over and she broke 3 different bones in her body. So people are being knocked unconscious by their dogs jumping on them. So what I would do is I'd walk in with a bonker. First of all, you can also crate your dog. That doesn't fix the problem, but it's just a protocol that you can do when you're not home. And you can also use a pet convincer. A pet convincer is compressed air. And the only way to stop this is through punishment. The only way to stop this is through punishment. So your dog comes running at you, you would say no, and you would, this is empty, but it's compressed air. So imagine there being compressed air, like cleaning your keyboard off. You can also say no, and you should bonk the dog. That's going to be your most effective. Now, what you're going to hear from a lot of folks is just teach the dog to sit. That's all fine and well, but theoretically, you don't really want the dog to sit. Sure, I want a dog to approach me and sit down, but I want the dog to not jump on me. And I don't want the dog to jump, I don't want the dog to jump on anybody. So right now your dog is trained to jump on you. So why is your dog doing this? Because it's been trained to jump on you. The reason why is because you haven't been able to stop it, because you just didn't know how. That's why you asked the question. So to me, if I came home from work and my dog charged me and jumped on me, there'll be a pretty serious consequence. Pretty serious consequence. And a lot of folks are like, oh, what are you going to do? Hit the dog, kick the dog? I'm like, why do we always have to go there? But since when is it okay for our dogs to harm us? That doesn't mean you should be harming your dog, but how about me? How about Karen? Like, I care about Karen a heck of a lot more than I care about her dog. Why? Because I'm a people lover. And if Karen gets pissed off, if Karen gets injured, it's going to cost her a lot of money and her dog might get rehomed. So everyone's always focused on like the dog and the comfort of the dog. How about fucking Karen that's getting her ass kicked every time she comes home? So it's more about like, and you can resolve this in one session, literally one session. If your dog, and then you can also use fear. People are afraid to talk about fear. Yeah, your dog should be afraid to jump on you. Damn right. And my kids should be afraid to ever strike me, ever strike her. My kids should be afraid of lying. My kids should be afraid of stealing. Absolutely. So I think it's important that a dog understands the consequence. Next.
Heather says, Steve, I love e-collar tech, but one of my 4 was defective and I didn't realize it for months.
Yeah, there you go.
Why isn't my dog listening?
Right.
Any tips for taking a dog camping or even going on road trips?
Yeah, Jake, have a fun time. So I go on road trips all the time with my dogs. I'm about to go to New York and then I'm going up to Canada. The Place Command is really, really great for camping. Just be careful about predators out there. Also be careful about, like, if you're hiking and backpacking, that's one thing. Camping in a big campground is another thing. If it's a dog-friendly campground, you got your work cut out for you, because there's gonna be a lot of freaking dogs there with a lot of bad behaviors. So hopefully they probably have leash laws and dogs shouldn't be wandering to other people's campsites. But I'm a backpacker. I haven't backpacked for a while, but that's my background, is I'm a big backpacker. Appalachian Trail and the Long Trail, not the whole thing, but parts of it, Pacific Coast, out in California, through Europe. So I would take my dogs domestically in the United States, backpacking, which is a great, great activity to do for dogs. But obviously off-leash recall is going to be really, really important. The Place Command, so they learn how to settle down, is really, really important as well. Next.
Okay. Steve says, Heather, thanks. It connects, but I think it's the hair issue. Just worried about making it tight.
Yeah, don't worry, Steve. Make it tight. If your dog passes out, it's too tight. Other than that, you're fine.
Karen says, LOL, yes, I've done the sitting and turning my back, but she'll still lunge, jump on my back, and hurt me that way.
Yeah. So this whole concept of turning your back on a jumping dog, that's really unethical for a dog trainer to advise.
Yeah,
and they do it.
She says, thank you. We'll work on that.
Yeah. So, but hold on, Karen. Let me call you on your shit. Don't work on it. Do it. I'm not mad at you, Karen. I love you. Do it. One time. If you give a high enough consequence one time, your dog will stop. Next.
This is from Michael. Had a sport dog remote collar that was running hot, inconsistent, and big jumps between levels. I got a 4-prong adapter instead of the 2 points that came stock. Amazing difference in fit and consistency.
Yeah, so Michael's talking about the comfort pad.
Yeah.
The comfort pad. Awesome.
And then Karen says, haha, yes, I will do it.
Awesome. All right, guys, it's been an hour. I know this one's only been 41 minutes, but we got kicked off, and Melissa's gonna put them together.
She's gonna smooch them.
She's gonna edit them together. We had really bad internet. We've had it all week, and I'm not quite sure why. I'm going to give Verizon a call tomorrow. But anyway, my name is Jeff Gelman of Solid Canine Training. This is Linda. Believe it or not, she doesn't do anything with the dogs. She's just
I don't.
No. She's my partner in crime, and she just does this for an hour a week. That's her thing. An hour a week.
That's how I get my paycheck.
That's how she gets her paycheck. Right? Lately, it's been pretty high. We need to talk about that Target credit card.
Again. Who, me?
So, all right, guys, madly in love with all of you. Thank you all for being part of this. I really, really treasure you guys a lot. Check out my links, solidcaninetraining.com, rvdogtraining.com, my Patreon page where you can get a lot of one-on-one help. The Patreon page is a lot of fun. Your questions actually get answered in full length, not just a little 15-second or 30-second thing. They get answered in really full length, as well as the Patreon page allows you to also do Skypes with me. Actually, I forgot to mention, there's actually a little cash button down there at the bottom. People could have been sending cash my way too. This
Could have been seeing some
the super chat. Make sure super chat. It actually brings your question up to the top. You get priority questions. All right, guys. Madly in love with you, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.